Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. This is Empire State of Baseball, episode number 63, October 9th of the year 2023, airing on Twitch, X, YouTube, and powered by StreamYard. Well, gentlemen, we are officially into the second round of the postseason. We could technically say the first. I know the wild card round, a lot of debate. Is it postseason bowl? Is it not? I think with the three-game set, it feels a little more postseason. But we're officially in the divisional series rounds. A lot of good series. We did a whole bracket show last week. We had some Mets news, too, during the week with the Billy Epler news. Ironic that it came a day or two right after we did the podcast because we had a whole debate about, well, should Epler be here now that Buck's gone, blah, blah, blah. Well, sure enough, both of them are gone. It's going to be a clean slate for Stearns. So we'll get into all of that momentarily in our Empire Express segment. In addition to our postseason segment, we'll talk about the brackets. We'll talk about our Bulls for the year, but a lot of show to run through. Joe, got to ask, on this October evening, how you feeling today?
I was feeling good after the Jets won yesterday, and then I looked at the news a few hours ago and saw that our best offensive lineman is now done with the year with another Achilles injury.
Unbelievable.
I'm a little less thrilled going into today. But the one positive news for Met fans, for most Met fans anyway, is the Braves are currently losing 3-0 and about to go down 2-0 to the Phillies.
Nice.
And talk about two teams I can't stand. That's just poetic justice for the Braves, who I hate more right now.
I agree with that.
I'm just saying. The Phillies were my dark horse pick to go all the way. And I said this was going to be the tough one. They get past the Braves. I got Phillies going all the way.
Did you pick them in your bracket?
I did not, but when we had a dark horse question last week, Thomas, which you got incorrectly, I asked which dark horse team that's not in your finals is going to the World Series.
Well, listen, you had an option of three teams who were could make a dark horse run. Good job picking one of them, Rich.
All right, I did it.
If it's not in your bracket, I don't want to hear it. It's nonsense.
All right, well, we're down to the classic format of the postseason, the divisional series. Do you guys miss the wild card game? I saw this question pop up a lot on Twitter. Do you guys miss the one-game playoff to get you in?
I will say I actually genuinely enjoyed it for a couple of reasons. In terms of getting into the postseason, I thought it really gave an extra push to try to win the division because anything could happen in one game. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could run out there with your ace pitcher, and if he has a bad night or, God forbid, he gets an injury, anything could happen in a one-game set. So I thought it put a lot more emphasis on winning the division. So I liked it from that standpoint. But I have to say, it's actually been somewhat fun. And we talked about it last year with the first time being the best of three wildcard round. It was better than I expected. And I know this series, too. This series was interesting because every team was 2-0. So we didn't have to go to that best of three. So I personally now that we're a full season removed from introducing it, I actually kind of like it. I'm not opposed to it now. But again, you have to get to the divisional round to really say, all right, we were a good playoff team this year. Because even last year with the Mets, you won 101 games, great, but it means nothing because you won one of the three wildcard games and you didn't even go to the divisional round. So kind of felt like wasted season almost.
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent. I could see the arguments for both of them. I like the abruptness of the one game. I think it adds a do or die excitement to it. I remember the first year the Mets got into that round. It was Syndergaard versus Bumgarner.
Great game.
The one game playoff. Mm-hmm. It was a scoreless game into the ninth inning, and Connor Gillespie hit the home run. I mean, listen, the Mets were on the bad side of that, but I can't deny that the excitement around that kind of game is unmatched. However, at the end of the day, baseball plays 3-game series their entire season. It is much more closer to what you do in baseball. Baseball's almost never about one game. It's about who's the best in a series. So I could see the argument for 3 games. I would not extend it more than 3 games. I think 3 games does the exact thing that it's supposed to do. But either way, I like both of them. I see the arguments for both. I don't think we lose anything particular by going to 3 games. Maybe just that jolt of energy for a couple of teams, that kind of fades away after that.
Listen, the argument for having a 3-game set or the 1-game set is money. Major League Baseball makes a ton of money selling these extra playoff games and the excitement around them. That's the only reason they exist. Anything else is nonsense. I prefer, like I said, I don't count the wild card round as the playoffs because I feel like it is now that almost so many teams get in, and now it's expanded playoffs in all sports. Frankly, I would rather go back to the way it used to be. Just your 3 division winners, 1 wild card. It'd be great if they'd have to do expansion to get the 32 teams and just get 4 teams per league, divisional winners, and that's it.
Mhm.
Baseball is the longest season by far of all the major sports. The regular season is the playoffs. And if you want to get in, you prove yourself over 162. We're getting teams in the playoffs now. Especially the NL this year that weren't. I mean, granted, some of them might have kind of showed up in the round because again, anyone can get hot, but it feels like, I don't know. I feel like those shouldn't be playoff teams. They haven't really earned it. So I'd rather go back the other way.
I do like the new series format. Even though I remember the wild cards, almost a callback to the old school. I mean, they still have them, but the tiebreaker games, they don't happen as often. I remember like the Rockies and Padres having that tiebreaker game. Matt Holliday sliding head first into home plate in 2008, and that kind of spawned the idea of having the wild card game because it's the wildness of that 1-game playoff. Remember the Twins and Tigers had a classic years back. I love the chaos of it, but I think the wild card series, it does the job, and it could be just as exciting. I mean, listen, the Minnesota Twins moved on to the playoffs, and now they have a series tie with the Astros. I know we're going to get more into the playoffs later, Corey, but what's the rest of our lineup looking like for today?
Yeah, we'll get more into the playoffs a little later, but we're going to start first with the Empire Express, the latest New York Mets and New York Yankee news. And we just mentioned a few minutes ago the Billy Epler announcement with him leaving the team, so more to come on that momentarily. A player to be named later will be our game segment for the evening, and then we'll dive the rest of the show with the postseason push, and we'll revisit the 4 brackets that each of us announced last week. One of us is completely eliminated with 0 shot at winning. One of us does have some good chance to win it all, so we'll see what happens. We'll dive more into that in our later segment, but again, we'll start first. Empire Express, New York Mets and New York Yankees. Last week, we were talking about Buck Showalter getting the news from Billy Epler that he will not be returning in 2024 to be the manager of the New York Mets. Well, sure enough, not even a day or two later, we get the news that Billy Epler is also stepping down from his role as general manager of the New York Mets. Some additional news that came out of that too regarding Epler in terms of tampering with the IL policy. There's a lot of debate as to does every team manipulate the IL?
Listen, if that's the case, Brian Cashman better put on a clean pair of underwear because he must have pissed himself seeing that phantom ILs could get you into some serious trouble. The Yankees love a good phantom IL.
The Dodgers. Kershaw takes a vacation 3 times a year.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And it almost makes me wonder, too, the way it happens, because it seems like, a little bit of turmoil. I don't want to say turmoil is a strong word, but I'm going to say there's a little bit of turmoil with what happened with Buck, what happened with Epler. I know a lot of people were upset with how the Buck news went down. Nobody seems to be upset about the Epler news. It's just a matter of being shocked. There was general shock that Epler was gone, especially after Cohen didn't directly say that he wants Epler as part of the team's future, but clearly said there's a lot of moving pieces in a front office and he wants to keep everyone around, which made everybody think Epler was staying. But do you think there could have been any insider information? I don't know. I don't think it would have been a guy like Buck, but maybe someone upset in that team, whether the front office, the training staff, the coaching staff, whatever it might be.
I could see it being honestly maybe more Major League Baseball, like realizing that the Mets are not the only team. We just mentioned the Dodgers and the Yankees do it all the time. Maybe them being a little upset that there are so many of these phantom ILs, and maybe it's a soft way to say, listen, he was going to get in trouble for this. So none of you GMs next year, let's cut this out. If you guys are hurt, put them on the IL. But if they're not, like we got to stop doing this.
The oddity of it is the Mets were 16th in IL stints this year,
right,
which was and the phantom ILs usually come into play, when the team's chasing the playoffs. The Mets weren't doing either one. The Dodgers I think led the way with like more than double the amount of IL stints the Mets had. And it was a strange timing. I don't know if Epler stepped down due to the investigation or Epler stepped down due to the fact that
I doubt it.
Somebody was promoted over him, and Epler probably feels like he should have been
president. Or Stearns kind of said, because they're like kind of buds, right? Kind of buds, not buds.
Apparently, they said they had a very good relationship. They were friends.
My guess is maybe Stearns kind of said, "Listen, like I kind of." I'm ready to move on from this, and I'm going to let you resign. I don't want to come in and fire you, but like I'm ready to bring in whoever my guy is. I would think that is more of the case than anything. Because why? I mean, Epler. Why would you not? I guess like obviously pride, but why would you not want to be the GM for the richest owner in sports? Like that seems like a really dumb career move.
Yeah, I think you just said it. I think pride is the way to go there. You have a new president of baseball operation that wants to make waves in this 2023-24 off season. He doesn't want Epler getting to the way of those decisions. And if Epler was going to be willing to be along for the ride, then Epler was going to stay put. But it seems like Billy wants to be more active than just sit on the bench and watch David Stearns do his job. And, there are going to be teams interested in taking Epler. So we'll see.
But the strange thing when it comes to Epler is if he wasn't going to be explicitly fired, you figured he would stick it out at least for another year or two. And you can now see the fruits of what these trades that were solely Epler's decision make. Because at the end of the day, if he wants another job in baseball, the results of these trades are going to be the key to him getting another job. So if he sticks around and Acuna comes up and lights it up, or Drew Gilbert or whoever it is, and those are the guys he brought in, regardless of the fact that he's second fiddle to Stearns now, he's going to be able to interview for a job. Cohen's going to let him interview for a job. He'll still get
credit for those. Though.
Yeah, and
like
I don't think how does that stop him?
Like those guys come up and their impact.
I'm just saying,
he's got to be able to point to that still.
He's now going to have.
I think Stearns just wanted him out.
He's going to have to wait a few years. I mean, that's the bottom line. Nobody's going to hire him this year or next year to be a GM. It's going to take a couple of years until somebody says, man, those trades Billy Epler did a few years ago really worked out for the Mets. Maybe we should bring him in here. Whereas at least if he's maintaining that job, somebody has a chance to hire him away from the Mets while he's still. It's always easier to find a job when you're still employed than it is when you're sitting at home. And that's a rule of life for anybody. So
yeah, I think GM of baseball teams don't quite fall into the same realm as like accountants and like normal people jobs. I think if Billy Epler wanted to be an assistant GM or work in a front office, he would have his pick between at least a handful of teams this offseason. If he was just like, hey, listen, I want to come in, someone would pay him to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a franchise only 5 hours up north that has a general manager vacancy right now, and the Red Sox are seeking somebody to fill that position. It could be a team like Boston that takes a stab at Epler. Billy's had history with the Yankees organization. Obviously, we know the Yankees are going through this audit process with their analytics. They added names like Brian Sabean and Omar Minaya to the staff last year. Do you think they add Epler in a similar capacity? Who do you see a reunion with the Yankees and Billy Epler this offseason?
I think the idea of a resigned Met GM under investigation by Major League Baseball going to the Yankees would probably be a now Yankees move, but something tells me it wouldn't sit well with the fans. The other part of this is, and I'll let Tom get into response to that, is it ever a boring day in Mets land? Can we go 3 weeks without a controversy? First, we have the manager basically announcing his own termination. Then we got Epler stepping down. 4 hours later, he's under investigation. He's the third GM in a row to be under investigation for something.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
That's why I don't think it's a real investigation. I really think it's MLB backdooring a way to like put this out there. Hey, let's cut it. Because it seems like a really weird time for all of that to come out.
Yeah, I somewhat agree too, because they even went out of their way to say they're not investigating Cohen. There's going to be no damage going against Cohen or the team itself. It's all the investigations purely on Epler. So if that's the case where they're trying to use it to discourage teams in the future from doing essentially like a warning, like Tom said earlier, I could see that too. And going back to Epler and the Yankees, I personally don't see it. You mentioned also, Rich, the Red Sox, they have an opening with Bloom out the door. I could see that as a more, in my opinion, at least a more realistic target because it's out of the city. It's not your crosstown rival, though Epler was with the Yankees. But I just think the situation, resigning, investigation, Cashman himself is still there. I think Boston would make a little more sense. I've also heard, I really wouldn't want this, but I've also heard Bloom's name mentioned as a possible GM candidate for the Mets. But I don't think that's the direction Stearns is going to go into whatsoever at all. I mean, I honestly, from this point on, from a Mets standpoint, when it comes to the general manager role, I think Billy Stearns, there's a couple of names being thrown out there. I think it's going to be a no-name person. It's going to be someone that most of us have never heard of, a guy around baseball, probably a respected guy, but a non-popular name that we're familiar with because it's Stearns' show. Stern owns the operation. He just needs somebody to make the phone calls, sign the contracts, do the day-to-day dirty work. But it's Stearns' operation. So I do think, me personally, it's going to be a lesser guy that the four of us have never heard of, that most of baseball fans have never heard of, outside of like the inner circle of people that actually work within the
a refutable name like Jeff Lunau.
Yep. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, so we gotta flip to the Yankee side, and I know we could talk about the audit, but I do. Maybe we don't have to. I was actually passing over the audit to talk about something else that happened because we just revealed our Bulls of the Year for 2023. If you've been following along with us on Instagram and Twitter, we've been plugging our Bull of the Week every week, our top 5. But because it was the whole year, we did a top 10. And congratulations to Yankees ace Gerrit Cole, who is our Bull of the Year. And those stats are sparkling. 15-4, 2.63 ERA, 209 innings pitched, 222 Ks. And that should be good enough to net Cole his first Cy Young Award this year. But he is guaranteed the Bull of the Year. We look at the rest of this list, too. I know it's a little pinched in here, but here's our top 10 broken out. An even split among the Yanks and Mets. 5 Mets, 5 Yankees on the list. Aaron Judge in there, the number 4 spot. I mean, I could pick out the one controversial take in that is he's a top 5 Yankee Met, and he played just over half the games this year. I don't even think he played half the games this season.
Yeah, it goes to show you how good he is. It goes to show you how good and how important he is to the team. I mean, you look at the Yankees offense this year, and we were talking about a little bit last week of why they were this bad this year. And OPS, one of the biggest things. I mean, they did not, a team that for our lifetime has been known for power hitting, middle of the order bats. OPS was in the bottom, I think, 6 of the league. But look what Judge's numbers in the limited action he had this year. I mean, he's the best hitter in baseball right now, period, end of story. He was the best one last year, the best one this year when he played. So the fact that he still made this list just goes to show how good a player he is. And if he's healthy all year, he has a shot to be our number 1, even over Cole. But, we'll just see what happens.
For the record, he played 106 games. So he did play over
half
the games.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for
Thomas. I was doing the same. I did the same research just now. Yes, 106 games. You are correct. I understated.
Yeah,
it felt like an eternity.
Oh no, I agree. That's why I looked it up. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, how long was he actually out for?
Yeah, and he probably would have been either 1 or 2 on this list if he had played. If he had missed 2 months of the season. So, he really had a great year.
I think 3rd in the AL in home runs.
Yeah.
Got 100 games.
Yeah, no, I mean, he did a great job. Glaber's there. Pete had an odd year, 46 home runs, 118 RBIs, but only had that 217 average. I think Lindor had maybe the quietest good year in New York. I mean, 254, 806 OPS, 31 home runs. Played a Gold Glove shortstop. Played almost. I think did he play every single game this year, or I think he maybe
160. 160.
Right. 160. 30-30 this year. He had a fantastic year. Was top 3 in basically every major statistic for shortstops in baseball. He might not be the best hitter. as a shortstop, but he is overall the best package for any shortstop in baseball. And yeah, you know what? He might not be a $341 million shortstop, but he's probably closer to $275 million.
I think, I mean, I know we talk about it a lot. We have to really, I think, get away from some of the money and the contracts. Like none of the, like, if you want to say like, what are any of these guys worth? Like, Francisco Lindor is probably the best shortstop in baseball. I don't understand the hate that Mets fans give him. They want him out. Like he's your face of your franchise. He should be your next captain. He is like everything you could ever want, I think, in a player. I don't understand the hate.
When he boos the fans.
Well, I think that was more Javi Baez.
Yeah.
And I think
he's still part of it. He's still
he was part of it, but I think he's kind of made up for it. And listen,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you can't ask much more than playing 160 games a year, playing Gold Glove caliber defense, and being a good hitter. 30-30 is a great season. I think he only joins David Wright as the only other Met to do that. You know, he's fantastic, and he's going to be here for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and shortstop itself, I mean, that's a position where if you're going to sacrifice some offense for defense, shortstop is one of those positions that you would consider it. So to get that type of power production out of shortstop, in addition to Gold Glove caliber defense, you take it every time. How about number 2, Kodai Senga? I mean, this is a guy just made his rookie debut. I mean, listen, he's not a rookie. He's a veteran in terms of baseball, but this was his first time in the major leagues. And a lot of questions about can the Japanese players, the pitchers specifically with a different ball size, make the adjustment from being an all-star in Japan to being a quality player in Major League Baseball. Some pitchers do it. I mean, look at Tanaka, look at Ohtani. Those guys did it in the past. Then you look at other guys like Taegawa, did not do it at all. So there's always that little bit of a
say Taegawa's name? Why do we have to say it?
I did give you the Tanaka, though. Tanaka was
appreciate the Tanaka.
Great. Yeah, had to balance it out there. But look at Kodai Senga. I mean, he was exactly what we were hoping for, maybe even a little bit more than what we were hoping for. Because honestly, for Kodai Senga, I was hoping, all right, give me a 3.50 or less ERA. Well, he got a sub-3, 2.98, 202 Ks. So that ghost fork was forking. Love to see it. And the biggest thing with Senga, too, he made an adjustment. And I want to call this out because I was very impressed with what Senga did earlier this year. The biggest issue he was facing was every 5th day. And in April and May, the Mets always tried to find an excuse to give him the 6th day, whether it was bumping someone up early, if there was a rain out, finding a way to push him back a start. But in the second half of the season, I mean, he was out there every 5th day. And not only out there every 5th day, he was the best Mets pitcher, bar none, majority of the season, especially in the second half. So got to give a lot of props to Kodai Senga making his major league debut and finishing number 2 in New York on our list.
It's wild. I mean, he had 20 less strikeouts than Cole, and he had 40 less innings pitched. That's how crazy impressive that he's been. And the Mets should feel really happy about that signing. They're going to go out, and I know they're going to hunt for another one. Listen, 2 other shout outs, I think, on that list. I think the last 3 can kind of be interchanged. Obviously, Holmes and King had good years. King especially becoming a starter late in the year. Holmes was the most consistent reliever in New York this year, but he had a couple up and down moments that as well. Alvarez is a rookie. But 2 other shout outs. Gleyber Torres clearly having his best year, I think, in the last 4 years. I think since 2019, he had his best offensive season. He was the only bat present in the Yankees lineup start to finish throughout the year with Judge getting hurt. And then shout out for Brandon Nimmo. I mean, Brandon Nimmo, his on base has dropped a little bit, but his power has gone up. He's got 24 home runs. He plays a Gold Glove, or not quite Gold Glove center field, but he plays an excellent defensive center field. He's a leadoff hitter, 274 average. You take that in center field any day of the week. I was actually looking it up the other day, and I know Yankee fans aren't going to like this comparison, but his numbers, his career numbers are very similar to Bernie Williams in terms of
all right, we're done. Moving on.
in terms of on-base percentage, OPS plus for their careers, they're very similar to those kind of players. Very, very good player.
Rich, we need to mute Joe. Joe, you listen. We give you a lot of leeway on this show. We're not.
Tom,
I'll hands up. When I said Nimmo was not a top 10 outfielder at the beginning of the season, I was wrong on that. He was absolutely a top 10 outfielder this season. Brendan Nimmo is not Bernie Williams. He's not.
I will post their slash lines later, their career slash lines. They are very, very close.
What are you talking about? 7 years versus what? 18?
I think 16.
What are we talking about here?
They both 16. Have a 380 OPS for the on-base percentage for their career.
Bernie fell off at the end of his career. I mean,
slightly higher OPS plus.
Yeah, I mean,
Brandon Nimmo's a late bloomer. Bernie was a little early of a bloomer. So, but I was looking at the stats before, and Bernie's got more power, but they've on a similar trajectory.
Joe said, to be fair, I think Joe said similar. I don't think he said better.
No, Bernie's a better player. He's a more complete player. But like I said, when I looked up the numbers, because the similarity score popped up on Baseball Reference to Bernie Williams, and it's actually very close in terms of the slash line. So, very good player, not quite that perennial all-star kind of player, but one that you would take on your team any day. I think that's a compliment to Nimmo, obviously.
I'm going to get my one call out in here. I know, Joe, you alluded to him in the bottom three, but I am going to talk about Michael King. Because if we had just did a bull of the month, if it wasn't for Garrett Cole, I think Michael King would be number one across the board. I mean, since being a member of the starting rotation, that's in 39 innings, it's got a 1.88 ERA. Tops the strikeouts as well. I think Blake Snell was the only other pitcher that had more strikeouts in the span since King entered the rotation, but King's definitely going to be a fixture this 2024 rotation for the Yankees. I don't think that's the question at this rate, Thomas. I don't even think there needs to be a spring training competition for it. King will be a member of the 2024 rotation.
No, I agree. He was phenomenal at the end of the year. The Yankees have their starting pitching. You always need plenty of starting pitching, but they have a lot of questions. They're just like with their position players of what are they going to do with him and Schmidt and you have Rodon, you have Cole, you have Nestor coming back. Do you want to add, but then who do you take out? It's going to be an interesting conversation once we get to spring. And again, a lot of that stuff tends to work itself out.
Yeah, and with the starting pitching, I mean, for both teams, for the Yankees, the question marks with the rotation for next year is with the guys that you have on the roster, because you have a lot of guys coming off of injury-prone seasons. I mean, Rodon with all the injuries, Nestor Cortez, Michael King. I mean, phenomenal September. But is he going to be an everyday, in your rotation throughout the whole season? Will he find his way back in the bullpen? Some question marks there. And then look at the other side of town, and the New York Mets. Their biggest question is, who is he even going to be in the rotation? Because you have Kodai Senga. I mean, he's a lock. But who else is actually under contract in the rotation? David Peterson. McGill, I mean, Quintana's in there. So you got your two. In my opinion, you got your two. I don't want to say Senga is my diehard number one ace, but you at least got your number two. And Quintana, you can't really ask for much more than number five. Well, outside of that, Peterson, McGill, I mean, those guys are, even though they both had good numbers as well, Lucchesi, these are more of swingmen, in my opinion.
It depends what the Mets want to do next year. I mean, they at one point said that it's going to be a bit of a transition year. So are you going to go out and spend big on a pitcher in the offseason that is a real number one or number two? Or are you going to kind of piece it together and really hit 2025? It depends what they're planning. Depends what Stearns wants to do.
That's pretty much exactly what I was going to ask. Could you live with a rotation that is Senga at your one, you sign or trade for a two, Quintana's your three, and your 4-5 is a spring training comp between Peterson, Lucchesi, McGill, as we just mentioned? Could Met fans live with that rotation?
If your goal is to maybe make the wild card, then yeah.
I think if you went out and got the other Japanese pitcher whose name's escaping me,
Yamamoto.
I think if you brought in Yamamoto and you rolled with Yamamoto, Senga, Quintana, and then left it back to maybe get another veteran that's kind of jumped around, and then leave
Frankie
that
Montas,
rotation between Peterson and McGill. I think you'd be fine, but you need to add to the top end of that rotation. So I think Yamamoto is the target. I think around baseball, they fully expect the Mets to be the favorite to land him. I don't know how much of an impact Billy Epler not being there anymore has on that, but I think that's been the rumor, this whole season. As far as Michael King's concerned, I think the only concern for the Yankees is how much further is he going to be able to stretch out next year? Is he going to have an innings limit? They're going to get to 150 innings and he needs to be shut down or needs to be managed? I think that's the only question with him, but I think the Yankees are absolutely going to look at him as part of that rotation next year, especially with guys like Frankie Montas and Severino probably not coming back.
The power of syllables. He can't say inning, but he can say King. So just saying. just wanted to call that out. All righty, but we'll monitor Michael King. Thomas, is Michael King on Instagram by chance?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say he's on Instagram. I know who else is on Instagram. A lot of other people on Instagram, including us. So if you want to follow the show, Empire State of Baseball is the best way to follow us. You can follow us individually at Corey Favs, at JR Pugs, at Rich J. Rivera, and at T. Waspel. We have a lot of our recaps that we've been doing. Again, no recaps now because no baseball for New York because our teams stink. But still putting out some reels, putting out some other things, our Bulls and our Bears and our rookie reports and all sorts of fun things. And we'll have things out throughout the off season with signings and trades and all that. And Instagram is a great place to interact with us and our community.
And our games, of course, which is what we're leading into next. Our ESB game of the week, we take a look at the standings. Tom has a 1-point lead over Joe, who has a 4-point lead over me, who has a 2-point lead over Corey. So we have just about a full month left of games. So every point matters at this point. It's October for us as well here at Empire State of Baseball. So let's get this thing rolling with a player to be named later. And Corey, I'm actually going to take this one first. This is going to be my Yankee one. So here we go. This player had a 15-year career in Major League Baseball, but would appear in just one All-Star game. This player hit 251 home runs in his career. He hit 156 of his career total with an American League team. This player was a first baseman for the New York Yankees in 2004.
Minkevich?
It is not Doug Minkevich, but that is a great guess.
15-year, one All-Star game. I mean, not Giambi because the All-Star games alone.
Not Andres Galar. No, he didn't play for the Yankees.
You couldn't even say his name right, but no.
The Big Cat. Big Cat also was, I think it was the 05 or 06 team, was in Met spring training, but didn't make the roster. I'm thinking
Clark.
Oh, Tony Clark.
Tony Clark.
Yes,
guess.
Thomas, I'll give you the point there. Tony Clark is correct. Yes, the team we were looking for the American League team was the Detroit Tigers. He had 156 of his home runs there. 1 year with the Yankees. That was it. 2004 season. Most notably, Thomas, if you can recollect, back in the 2004 ALCS, Tony Clark would have probably sent the Yankees to the World Series, and we would have talked about the 04 and the curse and all that good stuff if his ball that he hit down the right field line didn't go into the seats. That ball came closer striking the wall. It would have been a run-scoring base hit, but instead it was a ground rule double. It was second and third, and the runners got left stranded, and then the Red Sox would end up winning that game by a one score after the inning was done. So Tony Clark, who I think is now the executive director of the Players Association. That's how the kids will know him nowadays. He's actually the only executive director of the Players Association who actually played in Major League Baseball. All the other ones never played the game. So Tony Clark is the correct answer. So Thomas, good stuff there. Now, Corey,
why the
what do you got
Players
for us?
Association's got waxed the last few negotiations.
Well, we can have that up as a clue. So.
Yeah, well, we're going to go to another player. This was a two-time All-Star among his 14 years in Major League Baseball. He started his career in the NL East, multiple NL East teams, including the New York Metropolitans, But his best years, his all-star years, were in the American League. This was primarily an outfielder, played outfield and some DH in his American League stints. But looking at his outfield specifically, did play all three positions with the Mets. But if you look at his career numbers, primarily played most of his games in center.
I just want to say Jason Bay to upset Mets fans. You're not right.
It is not Jason Bay, although he did have that good run with the Red Sox, that half-season run.
Mike Cameron.
It is not Mike Cameron, but I do like the guess, though, because I know Cameron also started to shift around in the outfield in the second half of his career. Played a little right field with the Mets, too, when Beltran came along.
Sean Green.
It is not Sean Green. Another decent guess.
He's a center fielder.
It fits the description really well, too, though.
Yes.
All three outfield spots.
Yes.
Two-time all.
The one thing he didn't call out here is the time frame. So really,
in the time frame,
you didn't have to say it.
All I'll say is Sean Green, very good era in terms of similar time frame.
Okay. No. There's no way he even was an all-star once.
I was Andy Chavez that you're thinking of?
I love
Andy
Chavez. If it was Andy Chavez, I would love it, but it is not, unfortunately.
It's not Cliff Floyd, because Floyd was
played longer, though.
So. Yeah, I love Cliff Floyd, one of my favorite Mets. Not Cliff Floyd. I think he also played a little bit of first base in his career, too, Floyd. But not Cliff Floyd. I'll give you guys each
Richard Hidalgo.
Not Richard Hidalgo, another Met in like the 04 era. Would have been online.
Michael Kadire.
Not Michael Kadire. Very similar errors, though. Very similar errors. I used Michael
Kadire in the grid today. And then I remembered he was a Met.
I'm trying to think. Two-time all-star.
He was a decent hitter. I mean, he was a decent hitter. I mean, he didn't hit 300 home runs or anything like that in his career, but he was a good hitter in the middle of his career.
I'm trying to think.
Give you another 5 seconds here.
Another AL. Carlos Gomez.
Not Carlos Gomez. I will take the point. Carl Everett.
Yes, take it.
Carl Everett.
Wow.
Carl
Everett.
I forgot he was even a Met.
Yeah, he had his best year in Boston, 34 home runs, 108 RBIs. But he started his career with
broke up David Cohn's second attempt at a perfect game. Watch that. My family blooper. Oh God, that was devastating.
Yep. That's a rough one.
I hate him for that.
Yep, and you're not alone, because I know the Chooch in the chat, Matt Tooker, I don't think he's on tonight, but our good friend the Chooch also is an absolute despiser of Carl Everett. Played his first 5 years in the NL East, 2 with the Marlins, 3 with the New York Metropolitans, then a couple with the Astros. His rest of his career was in the AL.
All right, so there's the updated standings in the below ticker. Tom, 18. Joe at 16. I'm at 12. Corey moving his way up at number 11 there. So, like I said, we have a full month of games left still. I think actually starting next week, we'll have the final rotation of games. So whatever next week's game, that's the final one we're doing for the season. I don't know which one it is. I think it's Guess the Graph. So Guess the Graph and the other games back starting next Monday, but we're in the final rotation of those games. So we're getting right down to the wire. Tom, Joe, right there. But we'll see. Core curriculum can change this game like
it's
that.
A big one.
So we'll see how.
You just said it's Guess the Graph, though. And it's the last week.
Saying, we have a full rotation. We have one last rotation. Do you pay attention?
One more rotation.
We have one last rotation of games.
I thought you said next week is the last one.
And I said one core curriculum can change the face of this game, because you never know. Points go everywhere. So that's all I'm saying. So pay attention sometime, Thomas. That's it. All right. Twitch, YouTube. Joe, talk to us about it both.
Okay. We are airing live on both Twitch and YouTube. You can download both apps to your mobile device, subscribe to Empire State of Baseball. You get notified when we go live. You can view in right from your smartphone or mobile device, or join us on the computer. And of course, join us in the chats on both streams, and we will answer your comments as they come up during the show.
Mike Parziale did the right thing. He joined us on YouTube, and he guessed Xavier Nady, which is everybody's favorite guest on this show for whatever every single time we do these games. At least one Xavier Nady guest is in there.
Xavier is just such an awesome name. I mean, you gotta love just saying.
It really is.
Yeah, I will actually say, fun fact, when I was doing a little bit of digging to see who I wanted to pick so my player to be named later, I briefly thought of Xavier Nady, but all of the hints I was thinking, I was like, oh, it's a dead giveaway. I mean, the car accident trade, it would have been a dead giveaway. But I did think of Xavier Nady as my possible player to be named later.
Car accident.
Another solid
That would have been a
player.
Well, he was traded from after Duane Sanchez
Yes.
got into the car accident. The only reason the Mets
Fair.
traded him
Fair.
is because they needed something to trade for another reliever because our setup man decided he was hungry.
And Nady
at
was
2:00 in the morning.
perfect for that 06 team. I mean, Duane Sanchez was a very nice seventh inning reliever, and Xavier Nady was a very nice number 7 hitter in that lineup.
Right.
It's a shame what happened. Moral of the story: don't take 2 a.m. cab rides to Miami.
No. And Nady actually unfortunately, he got bounced from the Yankees 09 World Series team. He started off the year as the Yankees starting outfielder. Swisher kind of jumped into that role once Nady went down, and the rest is history.
Swisher, the short porch hunter. That should be named Swisher's Porch, man.
Yeah.
That guy made his career out of sniping second row home runs.
It definitely extended his career a little more there, Nick Swisher, but still a good pickup nonetheless. All right, so the postseason push. Obviously, Nick Swisher, part of that postseason, the Yankees World Series 2009 roster. And our closest thing to a Yankees dynasty, I would think, would be just the Astros and the way they've played over these last few years. But here, the Astros 1-1 in the series against the Minnesota Twins, and a potential to lose this set. I mean, it would be an absolute shock if the Twins can pull this off.
Yeah.
Both games coming back to Minnesota. So, I mean, we can work our way around here for the division series. But Stros Twins, I mean, we got to think the Stros are gonna take out the Twins.
The Twins have always been missing something, right? And we found out what it is. It's Carlos Correa. We can go on about garbage cans and pitches. This guy, the contract's terrible. He might be washed up, but there is something about him in the postseason when the game is on the line. Is there another guy in baseball that you would want up with your life hanging on the line? There's 4 guys. There's 4 guys in the postseason who are. I will take them in a postseason at bat over anybody. This includes Judge, Trout, Ohtani. I don't care. It's Correa, it's Altuve, it's Alvarez, and it's Harper. Those are the 4 guys. And Freeman would probably be 5th. But
I might just take anyone if Chapman gets the pitch to him. Like if Rollins Chapman gets the pitch. Give me anyone.
Over anybody. For whatever reason, when the postseason comes in, these guys never fail. Alvarez, and the thing is, Altuve and Correa can be pests. They can do multiple things. Alvarez just wrecks the game. He just hits balls to San Antonio. I mean, the home runs this guy hits has to kill people in the upper deck. They got medical people on standby when this guy gets to the plate. But Correa has brought an energy. He's gotten every big hit for the Twins so far. He's made smart play. He threw a guy out on a deflected ball the other day at the plate. It's unbelievable watching this guy in the postseason and how different of a player.
Oh my God,
is.
That was a big time play that he made the other day.
Huge.
That backing up the third baseman. Oh my God, that was a hell of a play.
Raw instinct to do it in that spot is just phenomenal, and it's exactly what the Twins. No Mowers, no Mormon. They never did this. No Santana. It doesn't. Torrey Hunter. They have never done what this guy has done to this team in a postseason. And they have a chance. They have a legitimate chance to knock off the Astros, except for the fact that the Astros have 2 guys who do that themselves.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. I mean, when we talk about Carlos Correa with the Mets in this past offseason, when they signed him, then they didn't sign him and whatnot, the biggest thing we're saying with Correa, it's not so much the in-season numbers. It's that the fact that the guy is a winner. Mm-hmm. He gets the job done in the clutch, in the postseason, and that's what the Mets offense lacked last year in the postseason, because they really didn't hit any of those Padres pitchers, and you wanted a guy who was a bona fide winner. Carlos Correa right now is just that for the Twins. And like Joe said, The contract is terrible. In hindsight, I am extremely glad that deal fell through because Carlos Correa's 2023 regular season would not have helped the Mets get to the postseason for sure. And who knows, all the trades they did and selling off, it worked out great. But look at Correa's last 5 games. His last game prior to the opening wild card game was in the middle of September 18th. Yep. So this is a guy who had like a 3-week layoff. All of a sudden, the playoffs start. Now you're in the big show, the big games. And his last 15 at-bats, he has 8 hits. I mean, this is a guy who just gets the job done in the clutch.
I'm trying to find like a comp from like basketball or something of a guy like maybe Ray Allen at the end of his career where he's old and beat up and going through the load management where he just comes in and just rains dagger threes when you need him the most.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy where he's kind of like the baseball equivalent of that kind of player. He's come basically from not playing off the pine and it's clutch hit, clutch fielding, it's instinctive play, and you can tell it's resonating with the Twins franchise. That's desperately needed somebody to infuse that into this franchise.
Yeah. I love it. And I tell you what, one thing, and we'll move on to the next divisional series. The one advantage I can give the Twins right now over the Astros, and that is with a game Justin Verlander and Framber Valdez, who struggled, is their starting pitching. Mm-hmm. I mean, Pablo Lopez has looked absolutely legitimate. I don't think the Twins are regretting giving up Luis Arias when Pablo Lopez is doing that in the postseason in that game yesterday.
Talk about win-win trade. I mean, when was the last time 2 major leaguers of that caliber got traded straight up for each other, basically, and both have been successful? I mean, you know, Arias won the batting title, but Lopez pitched a full season this year. I don't know how many innings he had off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's probably around 180, and just comes in and throws basically a shutout in a postseason. I mean, you never see trades work out that well for both teams in baseball.
194.
100. I mean, 100. You couldn't ask for much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
definitely.
100%. And Absolutely. How about too, well, real quick in that series, because I know, Joe, you were talking about it a bit and whatnot during the weekend. Berrios getting pulled. He's pitching a great game.
Oh, my God.
And what happened? I mean, absolutely.
Luckily, they put out that presser that Schneider's coming back for another year. My God.
Oh, man.
This is what happens when the 25-year-old nerd with the Texas Instrument calculator is running his equations up in the booth, taking his motorized scooter to work. All right. This is what happens when you have no feel for the game. This is the analytical nonsense that goes on. You paid Berrios. How much did they pay Berrios? $175 million to pull him with 47 pitches with your life on the line. He walked one batter. One. If that was my pitcher, I would hit the freaking roof. If I owned that team, every person with a calculator would be fired the next day, and the manager would be on the unemployment line for doing it.
You guys, I'm so glad I switched to headphones.
And instead, now all of Joe's neighbors hear him yelling about Jose Berrios.
It's insane, and I don't even love Berrios, but it's unbelievable that you would pull your second best pitcher to put a failed starter who has moved to the bullpen in. Who you're telling me that what's his face is better than Berrios with 47 pitches fresh? I can't. It was so they deserve to lose. And this is the Blue Jays. It doesn't matter. They have idiot managers. There's a weird aspect of the team. They want to lose, and they deserved it. They deserved every second of it.
Yep.
Thomas?
Sure. Yeah.
Thomas wants to talk Birdland. I know you want to talk Birdland.
Always
Thomas.
want to
You're
talk
at the edge of your
Birdland.
seat here.
Always
Birdland,
want to talk Birdland.
though, down 2-0 in the set when I had the Rangers taking Birdland to the cleaners. And look, Texas is going back to Globe Life up 2-0. Thomas, are you losing faith in the Orioles here?
I can never lose faith in my birds. Listen, it's not what we wanted, but adversity builds character. And this is a team of a bunch of young players who came into the playoffs thinking that they were, they were the best team in the AL. And, this is going to just make them better. This is going to really help when the Yankees falter again next year to help the Birds 2024 World Series play. That's kind of what we're thinking as like a positive out of this. We've seen the Rangers play really bad baseball at times in the past couple months. So would it shock me if the Orioles could come back, especially with how good that offense is? No, it's going to be a tough task though. So we'll see. It doesn't look good at this point, but you got to keep the faith.
Yeah,
too many Yankee faces. Too many just former Yankee faces in that series. So Montgomery in there, Aaron Hicks getting into a home run, Chapman being an idiot, Andrew Heaney on the mound. A lot of former disgraced faces of Bronx baseball. Corey?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say. I mean, I would love the Orioles to win this series. I mean, they still can. We'll see what happens, but I don't know, man. Something in Texas, they know how to shoot skeet. So Orioles are in a little bit of trouble down there.
Listen, and it goes to show you, we went from a manager that clearly overmanaged in Toronto to how about Bruce Bochy? I mean, this guy's a 3-time World Series champion. He was out of the game for how long?
Love that man.
The last 2 years, he was begging for somebody to hire him. So nobody would hire him because he was too expensive and he was too old school. Well, how do they feel? He's lost DeGrom. He's lost Scherzer. He's lost John Gray. He's lost everybody. And he's got this team, which backed into the playoffs, basically controlling their destiny right now. It is unbelievable. Credit to Bochy. He's kept them focused. He's brought a winning culture to that organization. And the idea that we got this new age manager and it's a manager by committee, this guy, Alex Cora, these guys, Terry Francona, these guys don't grow on trees. These guys should be paid the big bucks for a reason because they bring that extra something that teams need, whether it's to stay focused, whether it's to persevere through tough moments, whether it's just general preparedness that analytics can't tell you. He's got them laser focused. And right now, I thought them backing into the playoffs was a bad thing. Apparently not. Apparently they might be the favorites to go. They might be the favorites to knock off the Birds right now.
Well, they're the only team that could mark them off. So I would say they are the favorites to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, and the Phillies and Braves, as we mentioned earlier, are in progress. Phillies 4-0 lead in the bottom of the 5th inning. And man, if the Phillies bullpen could hold this thing together, we are talking a 2-0 series lead going back to Philadelphia. I mean, we talk about quite the upset there. What do we think about this series, Corey? Will the Phillies knock off the mighty Braves?
I tell you what, I think they are going to. I think the winner of tonight's game is going to win the series because you're either going to have the Phillies up 2-0 or you're going to have an epic comeback by the Braves. It's going to shift all the momentum in their favor. So if the Phillies win tonight, I think they win. If the Braves win tonight, I think they win. But when it comes to the NL East teams, the Braves and the Phillies especially, because the Nationals and the Marlins, all right, they could be a pain at times, but they don't really bother me. These are the two rivals that always bother me the most. And when it comes to who I'm rooting for, it's more about who do I hate more. And that team at the moment is who I want to lose. So when I was growing up, it was always the Braves. When I got to high school, it was always the Phillies. In college, always the Phillies. Right now, it's the Braves. So I will be rooting for the Phillies, and I hope whether it is the Dodgers or the Diamondbacks, hope the D-backs, I hope that team hands the Phillies a loss. So let's go Phillies for right now, and let's go anybody else in the next round.
Yeah, Braves can't go back to Philadelphia down 2-0. If the Phillies win today, this series is absolutely over. And it makes you wonder. It's the Braves have been so good for the last 2 years, and they chased down the Mets last year. This year they won going away. But it feels like they have a gauntlet of a lineup. It feels like they're missing that grittiness, that ability to grind out at bats when things are extremely tough. It's almost like it came too easy for the Braves this year, whereas the Phillies are the complete opposite. You know, the Phillies are kind of the embodiment of their city. They got, with Harper leading the way, he's the king of grind and the king of those dirty at bats kind of. You know, they seem to want to grind out every at bat, take it to you, sock you in the face when they get a chance. And I think the Braves facing adversity, I think the biggest thing that they're missing is a guy like Freddie Freeman, who really was the heart and soul of that lineup, would grind those kind of at-bats out. And I don't know if some of these guys really have that in them.
I don't know about that. I mean, like, it's been 2 games. You know, if they lose this game, the Phillies could absolutely sweep the Braves. Does that mean the Phillies are a better team than the Braves in 2023? No, the Braves were the best team in baseball. They look like they might get they look like they might just get nipped. They might just get kind of caught in the playoffs. I don't think that's these guys can't grind that at bats or they're missing something. You play this many baseball games, you're going to lose some of them. And the Phillies are a quality team. They have a quality lineup. It looks like they might get got. It's just might happen here.
My thing, it'd be the second year in a row in the same situation, and it's really looking.
Winning in the playoffs is really, really freaking hard.
Yeah,
I understand
what makes what Houston has done, you know, cheating aside, for the better part of half a decade, so incredible is that they keep persevering and they keep kind of fighting through it. I don't know.
And this is why I brought up my original question to start the show, is if we miss the wild card game just being that one game. A lot of Braves fans, I don't remember who, I did see it on Twitter today. A lot of Braves fans complain the fact that the series is now 3 games and their team had to wait a whole week to play ball. They want to have that wild card now shortened again because their team is on the brink of possible elimination because they were off for a week. Does being off for a week have a lot to do with the fact that these teams aren't putting away lower seeded teams? The fact that the Dodgers are down 1-0, the fact that the Braves are on the precipice going down 2-0. Yeah, the Twins and Astros 1-1, and the Orioles are down 2-0 with Texas. Does that have a lot to do with these teams?
I think it could a little bit. I don't want to over exaggerate and say it plays a major role, but I think there could be some level of belief in that, especially because some of these teams, like the Braves, they've had it clinched for so long. When's the last time they played a meaningful baseball game?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest thing, because the Braves, for the last month of the season, if you're running the Braves, your goal is get to the end healthy, all right? You kind of, I don't want to say half-ass things, but you could give guys a little bit of rest. You're not playing 110% ball to win each and every game because you had to clinch the NL East a long time ago. So I think there is a little bit of there. Baseball also, it's so much about timing. From a hitter standpoint, it's purely timing, getting your bat speed, timing up the pitch. And then if you're a pitcher, it's just constantly staying loose and getting in a rhythm, and maybe sitting down too long. It affects the rhythm. So I think there's a little bit of that there too. When it comes to the Braves especially, listen, I think they're the best team in baseball. They're the deepest team, the most balanced team. But in the postseason, anything could happen. You know, we said in a do-or-die game, anything could happen. Any team could win. Same thing in a week. You know, in a week span, anything could happen. Law of averages, the balanced team's going to have the better record, hence why the Braves are the best team in baseball, but anything could happen in a given series.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing is how teams manage having a big lead. Like, look at the Braves and Dodgers. I mean, these guys had it locked up for a while, and they go in, and the last week of the year, the starters aren't starting anyway. Players are only playing, 5-6 innings a game. So it's really not the 4 or 5 days off between game 162 and the start of the NLDS. It's the fact that you've had your players not ramped up to play. Look at the Dodgers and the Rangers and these other teams that have grinded it out. Their players might be a little bit more tired. They're in game. They're in game form. They've had 4 or 5 at bats every single night, and the Astros especially. I mean, the Astros fought to the end, won their division. They had the 4-day layoff between the wild card and now, and they won the first game against the Twins. So they were ready to go because they only had 3-4 days off instead of the Braves, where the Braves had the 4 days off and 3 weeks of basically not really having anything to play for. So I think the more important thing is that the managers and the organizations get caught up in having these players healthy for the postseason, but they don't get caught up in having their players sharp for the postseason. I think there's a big difference.
I think what it comes down to that is you just start your players that you know are going to be part of your postseason team. And then when you know, all right, we're halfway through the game, let's pull them out. Don't bench players, 3 out of 4 games going into the
Braves
postseason.
didn't do that. The Braves didn't bench everyone going into the postseason.
No, but they're not.
They played.
You're not playing at 110%. A lot of the starters are coming out after 5 or 6 innings. It's a different mentality.
Yeah, but what happens if Max Fried, who's had some injury stuff, and then he has a little bit of a bum elbow because you try to have him go 110. There's the other side of the coin. The Braves, listen, they play at the end of the year. They're losing, and it could be something the Phillies have their number right. This happened last year. It also could just be the Phillies just played better for 2 baseball games. It's like baseball that's how this game goes. It's how much you fail and everything. I don't think this is any indictment of the Braves. The Braves are the best team in baseball this year. At the end of the year, they'll still have been the best team in baseball in 2023. It doesn't mean they're going to get past the Phillies in this round.
The only note I'm going to make on the Dodgers Diamondbacks, because we only got through one game, Diamondbacks up 1-0 in the series. Man, can Clayton Kershaw get one game where he doesn't look like an absolute gimp? I mean, come on.
I don't get
it. It is, man.
The age-old question is going to be, when you look back, and Kershaw is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's got a 4.5 ERA in the postseason now in 32 starts. It's a full season. Would you rather be Clayton Kershaw wearing the Hall of Fame jacket, or would you rather be Madison Bumgarner, known as the best postseason pitcher of all time?
Clayton Kershaw. I mean,
it's fair to ask.
I don't think
as good as Kershaw has been, and I have called him the best pitcher maybe in history, because nobody pitch for pitch in the regular season has dominated for as long and as hard in the live ball era as Clayton Kershaw has had, if not as much success as he's had in the regular season, has had as much non-success in the postseason.
I see the question you put out there. I don't think it's even a debate. He did win a World Series. They did win the 2020 World Series. I know it's a weird year, but they did win the World Series. He won the MVP, three-time Cy Young winner. Yeah, you want Clayton Kershaw's career 10 out of 10 times over Madison.
But with your game, with your life on the line and one game to win, you're not. Nobody's ever gonna say I'm taking.
I guess. I mean, I guess it's the mental of like knowing you go to bed at night and like you didn't pitch significant games or pitch significantly good in games that meant the most for your team. Where Bumgarner, a non-Hall of Famer, knows like, all right, I had one of the best postseasons ever, but I won't snip the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right. But you're right, and the question will always be: Kershaw's in the Hall of Fame and he's great. But I would take a guy like Bumgarner, who's not going to be in the Hall of Fame, over him. I think that's going to be the indictment on Kershaw.
I would stir a little bit.
Is the fat right? And these guys
I would sleep so well knowing that I was like one of the best pitchers in baseball for a 15-year period.
But knowing you costed your team's games. Like I know it's a team sport, but there are starting pitchers that single-handedly costed their teams championships because of the way they pitched.
It's also, again,
the Dodgers should have
pitching in the playoffs is hard. You're going against the best lineups. I'm not trying to like defend him. He's been bad in the playoffs, but anyone who would say that you'd rather have Madison Bumgarner's career compared to Clayton Kershaw's is insane.
I'd rather his postseason career. I'd rather his.
Well, again,
obviously,
but I mean, I think it's the indictment of Kershaw to say, one game life on the line. No one's ever going to mention Clayton Kershaw being their guy in that situation. And I think that's
Thomas. I'm going to ask you this question. Would you rather have your postseason bracket right now or Joe's? Joe's are pretty damn good. I mean, we got to look at some of these brackets. I mean, Joe went out on a limb there, and I'll give him credit, but the Brewers unfortunately took the L. Yeah, I'll give you credit there. Corey here. Safer, but again, Rays over Rangers. I think everybody had that kind of pick. No one had the Twins over the Jays, and obviously you're going to see that throughout these brackets. Thomas here still has Baltimore afloat, but again, Orioles are going back to Texas down 2-0, so that could be a knock. And then we got this one, which is still looking pretty damn good. So we'll see how this thing shakes out.
We talked about how just like wild the CSs could be if it's Twins, Rangers, and Phillies D-backs.
Oh, man.
Anyone who says that
They
sports
had
are
that.
rigged and they just want these teams, that's a potential that is out there, and it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be a fun. It'll be fun. I mean, the Phillies we know have won the World Series last year. They won a World Series back in 2008, but we really have a chance to have a team to win a World Series who hasn't won one in a long time. And I think that's fun and that's exciting.
A Twins D-backs World Series might be
Oh my god.
catastrophic.
I'm pretty
TV.
sure
Sport is
Cornhole gets
dead.
better ratings on ESPN2
It
than
might.
that World Series
Would be catastrophic for TV.
Oh my
ratings.
lord.
Oh,
Imagine that Sunday of the World Series where it's like, oh my God, we got Sunday football on and like Game 5 of Twins Diamondbacks is on.
There's gonna be people choosing to watch like
Sunday
Jets
night
Vikings.
football.
They're gonna be like, oh, Jets Vikings. I would rather watch that than the World Series Game 7.
and I'll tell you what, too. I mean, I'm rooting for the Diamondbacks. Honestly, of all the teams that are left, I want the Diamondbacks to win it all. We'll see what happens. But if that was Twins Diamondbacks, we would get more action on Twitter, more ratings on Twitter than that World Series matchup it would be. But Rich, what do we got on Twitter?
Yeah, what do we got on Twitter? We're airing live on X/Twitter every week on the show ever since we began the simulcast back late in the summer, rather. 2,300 followers and growing. We put up all our multimedia content. We put polls up there. I know Joe got the playoff polls kicked off over there. I'm sure we got the divisional rounds up as well. Make sure to give us individually a follow as well. At ESB Podcast is the main, but individually at G Gory, at JR Pugs, at Rich J Rivera, and at T Waspel on X/Twitter. Now, next week, we'll be back, episode 64, for Monday, October the 16th, 7 o'clock p.m. But Corey, let's send this around the room for some final goodbyes here.
Yeah, just want to say, nice Jets win. Happy they won. Unfortunately, hear about AVT being out, but we'll see what happens. More to come in Jets land.
Yeah, Jets Eagles next week is going to be a long Sunday. Good thing I got golf on Sunday. So I'm probably going to miss most of the game, and that's going to be a rough game to watch.
Thomas?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm done.
Hockey season. Hockey season starts tomorrow.
Hockey season.
Devils,
Yes,
I think
yes.
Rangers play Wednesday. Devils
Thursday.
play Thursday.
That was play Thursday, yeah.
Yeah.
Rangers kick things off on Thursday. Looking forward to hockey season. We're looking forward, I guess, to anything else but baseball. But if you want to talk baseball, come back with us next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Twitch, Twitter, X, YouTube. See you then.
Go Diamondbacks.